So the title of this episode is I Expected a Little Better. And I think this could apply in so many different situations. I'm sure Jacob expected Haley to be a little bit better in the compassion department. I'm sure Eric expected Virginia to be a little bit better in the maturity department. And I'm sure Clara expected Ryan to be a little bit better in the sex department. But most of all of the Married at First Sight fans expected this season to be better. Let's hope we get it next season. Welcome back to Scared of Beautiful. My name is Paige. We are here with another Married at First Sight review. This is season 12, episode 14. The title is I Expected a Little Better. If you are new here, please take the time to subscribe to my channel, like the video, leave your comments and thoughts about what's going on. If you are one of my regular subscribers, thank you so much for your continued support. I love you and appreciate you all. Now, we get into the episode. It is less than 2 weeks. Decision day, D-Day, is less than 2 weeks away. So, production and the experts are trying to develop deeper connections, continue those unanswered questions from last week, and send some of the couples back to their roots, to their hometown, so that they can really get to know their partners. First, we see Eric and Virginia going to Eric's childhood home. For some reason, his parents were out of town, so they were at the home by themselves. He shows her all of his ribbons and medals from the military, and then he gets kind of offended because she compares them to like things you would get in scouting and things like that. And he's like, yeah, no, not really. He then shows her his baseball stuff from when he was a kid, talks about how important baseball was to their family. His parents would sometimes coach. They would go on the trips and the tournaments as one big family. And one day he hopes to do that with his own children. Virginia starts crying and getting very emotional because at first I thought she was thinking, she never had that type of togetherness with her family as a kid. But we soon find out that she's actually crying because she feels Eric doesn't reach out to her family and make an effort to get to know her better and understand her better. However, we learned that Virginia has been talking to Eric's family regularly. She calls his mom on her own, tries to develop a relationship with her and other members of his family. He's kind of taken aback by this and says, I've been focusing on us, developing our bond and really trying to make sure that we're solid. Also, your family, is so far away. I didn't, think to do that, but he does want to reach out to her family, hasn't done it yet, and he's going to make that a priority now that he sees how important this is to Virginia. I guess I see both sides of the coin. Their relationship, because of the arranged marriage is so unique, I do think it's important that they build their own foundation. And it's just kind of awkward to reach out to somebody's mom or dad and you've only been, well, they are married, but your mind thinks we're dating. We've been dating for 6 to 8 weeks. Who reaches out to somebody's mom or dad on their own within 6 to 8 weeks? However, now that he knows this is an issue for her, he's going to make it a priority. And that's the biggest thing in any relationship. No one can be a mind reader. So Virginia has to do better with letting her, whatever's bothering her, letting that be known up front. People handle situations differently, and this was just a thing where their personalities are different. And I don't think he was maliciously not trying to get to know her family or make any relationships with them. He just felt it was super early in the relationship. Next, we see Briana and Vincent. Briana is showing Vincent some of her tap moves. We learned that she was a tap dancer. She did all types of dance as a child, and she stopped. She lets us know that she gave up on dance because she didn't think it would make her any money. And since she was smart, good at math, engineering was the way to go for her. Briana then becomes vulnerable and intimates to Vincent that as a child she was very insecure about her skin tone because of colorism in our communities. A lot of the black community, and also in other minority communities, people of color, there's this colorism thing of the light skin versus dark skin. And Briana said she really felt that as a child. She felt that she wasn't pretty enough, wasn't beautiful, and wasn't desired. She said she changed her mindset about this around the age of 15 or 16, and she began to gain confidence and love the skin that she's in. She's a beautiful girl. She has a beautiful shape with her dancer's body. She's very graceful. I'm sad that she experienced that as a child, but I'm also very glad that at a fairly young age, still in her teenage years, she was able to turn that around and build her confidence and become strong in who and what she is and know that she is valuable, worthy, and beautiful. It was a great thing. Vincent is inspired by her pushing through, and he says that shows her, it shows him how strong she is and how wonderful she would be as a mother. Briana says she's excited to teach their children that they are beautiful, talented, desirable, worthy, all of these things. Vincent is happy and says that this makes him really think about starting a future family and home with Briana. Briana agrees, but she's like, pump the brakes. It's a long time away. Vincent isn't happy to hear that. He's like, how long is long? And it just kind of trails off. The one thing that I'm going to say about this, last episode, Briana brought in her fears about getting pregnant because she has high blood pressure and all of the complications that high blood pressure can cause within pregnant women. One thing I learned going through my own experience is that there are blood pressure medicines that are safe for pregnant women, but of course they need to talk to their doctors, and she probably will need a doctor that is well versed in high risk pregnancies. And the one thing that I will say to Vincent's credit, if it is truly a health concern for her, and I believe it is, the older she gets, the harder it's going to be. Advanced maternal age can complicate pregnancy just as much as any other pre-existing condition, because as our bodies age as women, it just becomes harder to bear children. Not impossible, but you get labeled a high-risk pregnancy just by virtue of being over 35. So she's 28 now. I wouldn't suggest that she put it off too much longer. She needs to at least start trying if she wants to experience a birth on her own. Next, we see Clara and Ryan, at Clara's parents' home. Clara's mom wants to get to know Ryan on her own and his family more, so they have their own kind of one-on-one time, which I thought was really nice. Ryan says that he was very needy as a child and he was a sore loser. He then asks her mother for advice with Clara and what they should be doing in their relationship. She tells Ryan that it is best to try to understand Clara and that she hopes that he at least likes her and respects her. And we know that he does. You know, he likes her, he respects her. He's very cognizant of some of her feelings. You know, when she has expressed things that she likes to do, he's tried to make sure those things get done in terms of dates, the donut date and all of that, the backyard changes that she wanted. He made sure that those were implemented rather quickly. So I can see how he tries to compromise and acquiesce to her in some ways, but unfortunately just not in the ways that Clara needs. I feel like a lot of these couples just aren't speaking each other's languages. And that's to somewhat be expected because, again, even though these are marriages, they're strangers. They're just getting to know each other and learn the different ins and outs and quirks of each other's personalities. He tells her mother that he wants to have kids, and it's very important to him that his kids go to church. He knows that Clara has a good foundation, a good groundwork and belief system, but he worries about her not wanting to attend church. Clara's mom then shares a story that she herself did not go to church at all until after she had Clara. After she had Clara, she saw some things and experienced some things where she was like, you know, I want to raise my children in church under an organized religion. And she believes that Clara may have the same type of epiphany. I'm very leery of, they're already married, so you can't go back on this. And that is where I fault the experts on that. Because religion, whether someone wants children, these are things that you can't really hope people will change their minds about. You can't marry and date off of that type of potential, especially if it's something that's super important to you, because there is a chance that they won't change. And who wants to wait until you have children to then have to have the battle every Sunday of we're getting up and going to church? So, you know, at this point, they're married, so they have to deal with it. But I really want the experts to start taking these types of differences more serious. Like, these are not things that you should joke with. The contestants should be given, you know, absolute deal breaker lists. And the experts should honor those lists and try to match people up who, you know, there may be someone who children isn't a deal breaker for them. So you match them with the person who might be unsure about having children. The person who says, oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. You match those two people together. You don't match the people who are like, oh no, I have to go to church every Sunday. It's not, anyway. Eric, we see him being a man of his word. He attempts and makes reach out to Virginia's dad. He says that he didn't expect Virginia to get so emotional about him not reaching out to her family, and he doesn't want her to run. But he explains to his dad that they've been super busy. He was trying to focus on their bond and building their foundation and their relationship. Her dad is like, you don't have to explain to me. I completely understand. So he actually agrees with Eric that their foundation, these 8 weeks of them getting to know each other, should be the priority. Her father admits that he and his ex-wife did not create the best foundation for Virginia. They didn't create a stable home, didn't give her a great example, and he knows that she is very damaged from that and has trust issues. But he admits that he is proud to have Eric as a son-in-law, and for Eric, that was it. He wants to have these words of affirmation from her father. It was very important for him to have his blessing. He then tries to tell the dad that his struggles with Virginia have been him trying to show her what a marriage should look like, what a good marriage is. And this is where I think he struck the wrong chord with the dad. He was going down the wrong road, and dad politely put him back in his place and said, no, a good marriage looks different to every couple. A good marriage is what you make it. And I agree with the dad. Each couple has to determine what is best for them. Virginia is too scared to commit, too immature, too lots of things. But Eric is also too rigid. He thinks everything has to be the way that his parents had it. And where that bothers me is that, I'm not saying his parents didn't have a great marriage, but nothing's perfect. And I'm pretty sure there's just a lot that they shielded Eric from, because no couple is perfect. There will be arguments. There will be disagreements. It's about how you get through it. Forever is a long time. And so people are constantly growing and changing. And so you can't expect something to be constant, standard all the time. It's going to shift. Next, we see Haley and Jacob at the batting cages. They go out for their own date. They did not go back to each other's hometowns and did not speak to each other's parents or family. Jacob isn't good at the batting cages at all. He only hits 2 out of 20. Haley hits 8 out of 10, and so she starts gloating again. This girl is not a gracious host, winner, anything. Says maybe this is a good metaphor between him and Haley. Jacob is like, striking out on every level here. Haley makes fun of Jacob yet again for his clothing and his attire. They zoom down on his feet, and he is wearing what she considers to be dress shoes to an athletic event. Dress shoes and jeans instead of sweats or tennis shoes. More athletic wear. She shows him pictures of her softball career as a kid. And then she shares stories about herself as a little girl and being very stubborn. If she didn't want to do something that her mother wanted to do, she just didn't do it. She wasn't wearing a helmet. She wasn't getting in the pool. She wasn't doing anything. And Jacob's like, wow, you were a diva. And she was offended by that. And, he just says in confessionals, I never knew I would be hearing stories about how she was so stubborn as even a 4-year-old. She says her mom gave her the latitude to be in a lot of different activities growing up. But her one rule was that Haley had to see things through. She had to complete. It's like, you're not going to be wasting my money, little girl. If you say you want to do soccer this season, we're doing soccer this season. But you're doing it the whole season. You're not going to do 2 games and quit. Very, good principles to teach your children. But Jacob kind of, and rightfully so, takes that as a slight or dig at their relationship and talks about how that teaching now applies to their relationship and how their relationship has played out with Haley just kind of going through the motions to see it through. think that's kind of what they're both are doing, honestly. Next, we see Briana and Vincent at home with Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is there to go over some of those unanswered questions that we saw from last episode and really work with the couples to see, have they done their homework? Have they had these hard conversations on their own? And if so, what has been the resolve? What's the decision? And if you don't have a resolve, let me help you through it. I was very happy to see Dr. Pepper doing this. But as I've said before, I really wish the experts were doing this earlier on. Now it seems so close to decision day, about 10 days left. It's a lot when I think this might be work that's better done earlier. Anyway, they start going over Vincent's issue of Briana not letting him sleep in. Briana goes down this road again of, well, he stays on his phone 30 to 60 minutes after I'm already asleep. He's grown. Y'all don't have to be the Bobbsey twins or tied at the hip. He can go to sleep when he wants to go to sleep. It's a lot. Vincent talks about, he's a car broker. So he's constantly on the road, in the car, driving from location to location, looking at leads, looking at new cars, doing things that he needs to do for his business. And he needs rest because he's driving all day. He doesn't want her to think that he's lazy, but he needs his rest. Briana affirms that she does not believe that Vincent is lazy, and Dr. Pepper made sure that he heard that because he does build up a lot in his head, and instead of just communicating, he automatically turns things negative. So I thought it was very good that they got that out in the clear. She doesn't think that he's lazy. Dr. Pepper suggests for a compromise that he gets to sleep in some days, and then some days he gets up. So maybe even create a schedule of, you're going to, sleep in Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and get up with me on Sunday and Tuesday, whatever. Dr. Pepper tells Briana, this is what compromise looks like. You don't have to have it all or nothing. And Briana reluctantly agrees. They get into Vincent's or Briana's concern of the childbirth issue. Briana clears it up and says that she doesn't want to try to have children. It's just that she has this great fear of childbirth. Vincent says they have agreed to do more research on her health issue, talk to doctors, make sure everything is good to go, and at least attempt. Dr. Pepper asks how he feels about adoption, and he just kind of is stuck and pauses. He says that he's never thought about it, and he would need some more time to think about that, digest it, process it, because in his mind, he's always thought about having his own children, not adopting. Virginia and Eric, we see them again. They're playing basketball. They didn't go to Virginia's hometown, which is Nashville. But she wants to show him what she did growing up. She was a basketball player and learned a lot through group sports and activities. And honestly, y'all, I was shocked when they showed all of the different pictures. She's been playing basketball since elementary age. And when they actually played their little game of one-on-one, she was a very good, I'm like, she must have been a guard because she had a very good dribble, a nice layup. And I was shocked because of what we've seen so far, Virginia. I just didn't think she would have the discipline to do group sports. You can't go out there and do suicide drills with a hangover. So apparently she developed this drinking habit in college, not when she was a serious basketball player. She talks about how she helped send the game into overtime on her senior night. So, it reminded me of Al Bundy talking about reliving his football years. But it gets kind of sad because she says that she learned how to be super independent because neither of her parents were at her senior night. Her siblings were there, but her parents weren't because of the divorce. And this is one of the things that has caused her to be super independent. Eric then takes the time to assure her that he is very dependable. He's there for her. He wants to be her backbone and wants her to be comfortable enough to rely on him and to need him. Virginia then just kind of looks weird at him, kind of funny, and says, is it okay if I want you instead of need you? I can honestly admit this is one time where I agree with Virginia. And it's hard because a lot of men, I guess it really is that primary instinct of how men are wired. I can admit, as a professional woman, an independent woman, a lot of times I meet guys who say they want a professional or independent woman, but really don't. You know, they want the damsel in distress. They want the woman who needs them instead of the woman who wants them as a companion for whatever other things they bring to the relationship. For me, I would prefer to be wanted instead of needed, because wanted means you are actively choosing me. You have other options, but you want me. So I understand what Eric is trying to say, and it's very admirable. But the way he goes about it sometimes is so suffocating that, and with Virginia's anxiety issues and all of her other issues, it's coming off very, it's a lot. And in the moment, I understood what she was trying to say. How about I want you instead of I need you? Another thing that they have to work out. Jacob and Haley then go for putt-putt golf. We learned that this is Jacob's activity because his mom used to drop him and his brothers off at the putt-putt golf place to be babysat by themselves while she went home to sleep. Jacob wants to come up with code names for keeping score. Haley's like, no, why can't I just be Haley and you be Jacob? This is one of the things I'm talking about. This is so trivial and so silly. It's his activity. If the man wants to create names, let him create names, Haley. It's not that serious. You have to give him something that he likes to do as well, because he acquiesces to you on everything. So she doesn't want to do it. Jacob's like, okay, whatever, I'll give you your own name. And he decides to be Eagle and Haley is Dragon. Okay. They get into playing the game. Haley misses. She wasn't that good at this sport, but she tells the confessional that she has to let him win something. But then she intimates that her and her family went to play putt-putt golf regularly all the time, that she can't believe he's beating her. He shows her pictures of his family at putt-putt golf when they were younger. All of his brothers, his dad, just hanging out as a family. And then he also shares a picture of himself at a company golfing event where he had on short jean shorts that were so short, his thighs were bulging out of the shorts, and the pockets to the jeans that he cut up were clearly visible. I mean, those shorts were short. It was a lot. It was a lot of thigh. Haley asks why he didn't get fired for wearing that. And Jacob just jokes and says, people just laughed at me. IT isn't that serious. We don't take ourselves that seriously. They continue the game. Jacob continues to win. He keeps hitting hole after one after hole after one. And Haley becomes visibly frustrated. She is not a good competitor, y'all. She wants everything her way. She wants to win at everything. And so she accuses him of cheating and coming early to practice because she cannot believe that he is so good at this sport when he has been bad at everything else that they did. Jacob says it's just his smooth stroke. Go ahead, Jacob. He wins and Haley continues to pout per her usual. Next, we see Ryan and Clara back at Clara's parents' home. They sit down and eat some lunch. And Clara shows Ryan, her bedroom, which is now the family home gym. Her mother and father were not playing. These kids are out of this house. This is our home now, and we are remodeling it the way we want. But in the closet, they have some of her old high school clothes, her prom dress, her dance clothes, and her show choir dress. I can definitely see Clara being in show choir. She talks when they're at the family table eating lunch. She talks about how her mother broke her Usher confession CD that she had burned because it was wildly inappropriate. Y'all, I felt like that was code for something. And I'll leave that at that. She couldn't have MySpace for a while. I haven't heard about MySpace in so long, so that was cute. And when she did, she had to be completely unanimous. And they correct her and say, anonymous. She had to be completely anonymous. No real pictures or her real name. Her mom's advice to Clara and Ryan is to live every day as if it's decision day. Next, we see the letter writing exercise that Dr. Pepper wants some of the couples to do. They have to write a letter to their younger selves at a significant point in their lives. The goal is to get the spouses to be more vulnerable and reveal something new that might connect them on a more deeper level. Jacob and Haley are the first ones with this exercise. Jacob's letter is short and sweet. He says, don't be a bitch, embrace adversity, and don't quit football. And thank you for not quitting football. I thought it was a bit aggressive. I thought it was an interesting way to talk to your younger self. But, it was very Jacob. Haley is like, that's it. It's so short. You don't have anything else that you would like to say to yourself. He says he doesn't want to tell himself anything that may stop him from making a mistake that he was meant to make. Interesting logic. Haley talks about dating to her younger self and finding your voice. To me, she's so super passive aggressive. She manages to put in the letter to her younger self that relationships you think will last forever won't. Now, they could just refer to the fact that she's still not healed from her past relationship. But when you say that to someone who's your spouse, who is the actual relationship that should last forever, yeah. So, of course, Jacob gets defensive and says nothing in response to her letter. Haley prods him and says, hey, do you have anything to say about my letter? Didn't give her any feedback. So instead of giving feedback on the letter, he brings in another scenario and asks, what would you say to yourself the night before the wedding? And Haley gets uncomfortable, looks around and just says she would just say, calm down. I was freaking out, so I would just say, calm down. And you don't have any idea what's coming for you. Jacob says, okay. Then she asked him, what would you say to yourself the night before the wedding? And he's like, I probably shouldn't. And Haley eggs him on and says, no, like, tell me. We're being honest. Tell me, what would you say? And he says it again. I probably shouldn't. She's like, say it. So he proceeds to say, I'd probably say, return the bracelet. And he chuckles a little bit, the fabled bracelet. So now we see this whole montage. We hadn't seen this before, of an ongoing argument they've been having about the gift that Jacob gave her before the wedding that was brought over by production, which was an infinity bracelet. She thought it was a necklace, but he revealed that it was a bracelet. She says she sent it back with her mother because everything was all over the place in the room. She didn't know if people would be in and out, so she felt that that would be the most safe place for it to just go back to Alabama with her mother. And she's never gotten it shipped back to her as their marriage has progressed and continued. Jacob admits that this bothers him, especially because she doesn't even have it in her possession. It's like a throwaway, something that's forgotten. Not the fact that she didn't wear it, but the fact that she doesn't even have it. She says she never thought about it. And he's like, that's the problem. She retorts by saying, well, you never wore the hat that I gifted you with. She gave him a hat before it was brought over by production, before the wedding. And he does a little balancing scale. $20 hat, $800 bracelet. And I'm like, you spent $800 on somebody you didn't even know yet? Go ahead. And he makes the point that he has the hat in his possession. She doesn't even have the bracelet in her possession and has not even thought enough to want to retrieve it. It's just another microcosm of their relationship. They kind of reach an impasse. Haley walks off. Jacob is just like, take it easy. You know, these two keep trying, saying they're going to try again. But honestly, I mean, it's so close to decision day. I guess you go through with it. But they have never been able to get on the same page. They are speaking completely different languages. And honestly, this is Haley. She's rude. She's inconsiderate. She can't think of anything outside of herself. He keeps trying. He keeps attempting. And I agree with him. If you cared remotely, you would say, oh, Mom, you know, we're settled now. You can send me the bracelet back. Even if you didn't wear it. The fact that you left it there with your mom, like, no. Dr. Pepper then meets with Ryan and Clara. They talk about their unanswered questions. Says they've talked, but they really haven't. We saw the talking they did, and it was very surface level. Clara says that she was asked to be matched with someone who didn't want to necessarily have sex with her right away because she thought maybe there had been an issue in her prior relationships. Then she says, you know, I got to be careful what you wish or ask for sometimes. Dr. Pepper asks if he would have sex with you right now, like tonight, would you do it? And she's like, sure, absolutely. Girl, stop trying to downplay this. You would jump his bones immediately. But she says, I wouldn't want it to feel like we're just checking a box or marking something off. Lies. Virginia, be you. It's like you're losing you trying to take on what you think Ryan wants and what you think Ryan wants to hear. That's not a good pattern to set up. Dr. Pepper asks if it feels like Ryan is withholding something. Clara says Ryan has assured her that that's not what it is. He's just making sure that they trust each other and that they feel safe with each other. Dr. Pepper's like, I would understand that if you all were just dating or if you all weren't as far along in this process, but she's not buying what Ryan is selling. Clara wants to know how they get from I have love for you to I love you. Ryan just says, the same thing. I want it to be impactful. I want it to mean something. He doesn't want to just say the words when they're meaningless, and he doesn't want to force anything. He also doesn't want to make the words empty where they lose their value. Dr. Pepper challenges him on this and says, I say those words over and over to my husband and my children. I want that to be sure that that's the last thing they hear in case we never see each other again. They won't lose their value. Clara says she can't be in a marriage where she has to force her husband to tell her that he loves her. I think Ryan has some serious issues that he needs to work out. I don't understand why he's so super rigid in his emotional life. It's just not a good balance. And he needs to work on that. Like, Clara is too quick to love, but Ryan, his actions do feel like withholding. Vincent and Briana, we see them, and Vincent takes her to a Dominican bodega, a restaurant, and he tells her about his love for his food and his culture, how the smells really remind him of home. Briana likes to see him in this element and tries to embrace his culture. She's like, I need to learn how to cook differently, I guess. He tells her about growing up, how he grew up with his aunt, not his mom and dad, and they lived in a lot of poverty. They came to the States to seek a better life, and he felt like he was always by himself without his mom and dad. He felt like he was missing out and had no father figure. And that's why having a family is so important to him. Briana now, understands why children are important, but she still worries about her health. Next, we see Virginia meeting with Bridget, who is Eric's sister-in-law. The sister-in-law asks about how their relationship is going, what Virginia's headspace is, and she starts talking about their arguments, how the last 3 or 4 days have been good, but they have been having a bunch of conflicts. The sister-in-law says that Eric and his brother are very much alike. They're not good about talking about feelings. And she knows Eric cares about Virginia, but opening up just isn't the easiest for that family. Virginia then says she doesn't want him to feel obligated to go with her whenever she goes out, but she wants him to be okay with her going. She feels like that's the biggest obstacle right now in their relationship. The sister-in-law is kind of on Eric's side. She understands Eric's point of view about being out at bars all of the time with male friends. Virginia says he should just trust me. He should just trust me. And the sister-in-law says the friend issue and not seeing Eric as her number one would be very problematic for Eric. She doesn't understand Virginia and just says, sure, after Virginia says it was easier for Eric to put her number one than it is for her to put Eric as her number one. What? You can't put your husband as number one? This girl was too immature, y'all. She is not ready for marriage. Why is she on this show? Why? And at this point, I'm also starting to blame Virginia's male friends, as they need to put themselves in someone else's shoes. They seem to all have wives or girlfriends. Are they cool with their wives or girlfriends hanging out with other male friends and sleeping on their couch? Like, is Virginia even having these discussions? I think she needs to hear this from other males, even though Pastor Cal has told her, but it's just not cool. It's basic boundaries, and we clearly see she has issues with basic boundaries. Next, we see Jacob and Haley meeting with Dr. Pepper. They sit in this awkward silence per usual until she gets there. Dr. Pepper talks to them about their unanswered questions. Haley's question is so superficial and BS. I'm so sick of this girl. Her question is literally about his clothes, why he wears what he wears. She says she just wants to know why he doesn't want to be comfortable. He says that he is comfortable and he doesn't like tennis shoes. I used to have this issue with my mother. It would always be, why you got on all them clothes sitting in the house? You look hot, but I'm not hot. That's a control issue. Why are you trying to control what's comfortable for somebody else? Ugh. They get into the bracelet argument again. Haley is still acting super dense, like, it wasn't at the top of my list, and why does it matter? We're not in a good place. I'm not wearing it. Jacob finally breaks it down and said, it's disrespectful because I invested in it. I spent $800 on this. Dr. Pepper agrees with Jacob and says that he made a significant investment on something that was precious without even knowing her. He's hurt. And anybody with half of a heart would see that and know that this man is hurt. You give a gift to somebody and they don't even think enough to keep the gift. It's somewhere with their mom. Why? Dr. Pepper says Haley is not showing empathy or kindness. She's not. Haley says that, usually she leaves when she doesn't want to be somewhere or is unhappy. But because she can't do that here, she just kind of shut down. And Dr. Pepper says that's unfortunate. Jacob is trying and Haley is not even trying. And if they are going to work, Haley has to take some accountability. Dr. Pepper, they're not going to work. She doesn't want it to work. She's not trying to make it work. Just, another horrible match. Virginia and Eric meet with Dr. Pepper about their unanswered questions. The communications issue comes up. Eric says he understands Virginia more once she started to open up about her childhood and her past. Virginia's question is about Eric's concept of family and marriage. Virginia thinks that marriage doesn't have to be cookie cutter. They can make their marriage their own. Eric agrees, but he says that there are some rules and behaviors that are core to a marriage and should be in a marriage. Virginia is like, outside of cheating, it should be whatever we make it. Dr. Pepper makes a very good suggestion, and this is why these experts are so needed. She suggests that they each write down their goals for the marriage, what they feel the goals should be for their marriage, and what behaviors will serve them to meet those goals, and then discuss the goals and behaviors with each other. They need to communicate and then, make a map, talk about how their marriage should look based on those goals and behaviors. They say that they like Dr. Pepper's suggestion, but then they get back in an argument when she leaves about the standards of a marriage. Virginia goes back to saying that I should be able to pass out drunk at my friend's house. I mean, if you are at work, you want me to come back to an empty house? What if I'm drunk? What if it's raining? What if it's, bad out? And he's like, you're making excuses and making up scenarios that haven't even happened yet. She's like, well, why does it matter if I sleep out? Ma'am, why does it matter if I sleep out as a married woman? Make it make sense. Eric reasserts that there's just some things you do not do in a marriage. He has a list of about 5, and this is one of them. Virginia, again, talks about how it's just so unfair that he thinks like this, and that she won't agree that there should be standards in a marriage. Y'all, this was painful. Super painful. Why is this girl on this show? She was literally like a child taunting him. Well, why can't I sleep out? Well, why? Well, why? But it shouldn't be like that. But girl, yes, it should. There are standards in any relationship, but definitely a marriage. And passing out drunk at your male friend's house is a boundary. It's a standard. It's a good one. You think your friends won't. What if someone else is at your friend's house who aren't your friends? And then something bad happens to you. Someone takes advantage of you. Your husband's out of town and you're random places. You don't want to call and check in with him. Something could happen to you. If you want to give scenarios, that could go both ways. Clara and Ryan, we next see them do the letter writing exercise. Clara says she's been awkward since the meeting with Dr. Pepper. She's in love with Ryan, but doesn't know if he feels the same way. Clara tells her younger self in her letter that she doesn't have to be perfect and that she can be open and vulnerable with the people in her life and who she loves. She should tell them that she loves them and should not be afraid to fall in love. It was a very heartfelt letter to her younger self. Ryan tells his younger self that he wouldn't change a thing, that he should not be afraid of failure or of being wrong, and that older Ryan is proud of him. This was so surface level. So basic. No introspection. No vulnerability. And one thing that I noticed when they were sitting with Dr. Pepper and Clara was talking, it's like Ryan's eyes dart back and forth. He's trying to anticipate what she's going to say and make sure she doesn't say something, too risque or too revealing. It's sad to watch. He also should not have been on the show. He wasn't ready to show his real self. He's too beholden to image, maybe because of his parents and being a preacher's kid. I don't know. But I don't like that I feel like I'm seeing a shell and not a real person. Clara says that this is about what she's been getting from Ryan, but she did expect something a little different. She knows that Ryan is guarded and very compartmentalized. He compartmentalizes his feelings. They just end with a bunch of guesses and nods to each other. Lastly, we see Jacob and Haley again. Haley FaceTimes her mom and says that Jacob brought up the bracelet again. So we know that she's been filling her mother's head with different things. She wants her mother to send the bracelet back. Because Jacob has asked for it back. It's not what Jacob asked for, Haley. Quit manipulating things and lying. She proceeds to call Jacob tacky, her and her mother, and a bad gift giver to want something back. He did not say he wanted the bracelet back. Then they talk about how tacky he is for repeatedly bringing up the amount he paid for the bracelet. And they insinuate that he shouldn't have given an expensive gift if he couldn't afford it. Then we learn that Jacob has given Haley her hat back by leaving it on the dresser in the room she's been sleeping in. So apparently the sleeping in the one bed thing hasn't worked. So now they're back to being in separate bedrooms. So much for trying. And they again just giggle. Her mother is like, if I have to drive it to Atlanta, he will have his bracelet back. I gotta go with Jacob on this, from a few episodes ago when they were doing the house tour and he found Haley's mother's clothes and called her a Karen. Very much a Karen. That's what I saw on that phone. And Haley is one as well. Very elitist, very judgmental. But part of this is because her daughter is not telling the truth. She's not owning her part in this. She's not taking any accountability. And honestly, she's rude in a few other words, but I'm not going to call her that. So that's the end of this episode. Y'all let me know how you feel. I'm just glad we didn't have to deal with Chris and Paige this episode. Thank you, producers. Leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye.